That's yours. Lay it down. Okay. Are you muted, Krissy? Okay, wow, my mic is really powerful.
You have a hollow in the background, Crystal.
I have a what?
A hollow, a hollow, echo.
Is it really bad? I hear it.
Not too bad, but you could hear it.
Am I not? But now you can hear me. Oh, it should be like that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, we'll get started in just a few minutes.
What happened to the sound?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, let me check the decibels. So there's a little bit of a bounce. Testing. Do not disturb.
Super soft, Crystal.
Can you hear me now?
That's good.
I forgot to do not to disturb. Where is that? Okay. How many are we up to, Jennifer? 32.
32.
32, but 2 of them are us. Okay.
32, but like 7 of them are office staff.
I know. Let me go make sure shop is ready to go. I will take. Okay, careful because the mic is live.
Hello, Krissy. Can you hear me? Hey, Krissy. I mean,
Yes, sir,
Crystal.
Mr. Sanchez, we can hear you.
Yeah, but I can. Okay, now I can hear you. All right.
Testing, testing, 1, 2.
You're on mute, Krissy?
You're on mute, Krissy?
Hi. No. No. Not now. Okay, put yourself on mute just so I can test my
Okay,
mic.
put yourself on mute just so I can test my mic.
Where'd it go? Hello? Did you get up here and do it? No, click over here.
No, click over here.
Click. Oh, no, you're right. Go over here.
Oh, no, you're right. Go over here. No, you're muted. So you're talking from my mic.
I just did it.
You just muted her? Oh, okay, cool. So right now this is you on my mic. Okay. So you can see though the PowerPoint on there right now too?
Yes.
Okay, but you can see me.
Correct. On the
All I
square.
can see is the slide.
Okay. Oh, you can't see me at all?
No, ma'am.
I can see you, Chilindrina.
I can see you too, Crystal.
Yeah, if you scroll on, okay, so let's go ahead and get this started. Because it's 8 minutes after. I have a delay in my ear. That's weird. Okay. So we're going to get this started. It's 8 minutes after we're going to get started on our safety meeting. If you can't see me and the PowerPoint and Krissy, because I think that's who we highlighted, use your finger and scroll to the gallery view or to the speaker view, or click on the top of your monitor, and it'll give you a bird's eye view of what I'm talking about. There's going to be a PowerPoint, and there's going to be the actual live video that you're going to see. I guess we're ready to go, right, Krissy? Okay. So welcome everybody. Today's, I'm going to take this thing out of my ear because it's going to. Today's safety meeting, we're going to try and make it fun and simple because there's a lot of things going on, and we didn't want to stress everybody out about it. But monthly, we have to do a safety meeting. Wait, this is going to drive me crazy. You're just going to have to listen. That's part of the document, just like we talk about documentation. There's certain things that the department has to have in order. Safety meetings, I know that you think we just got on Zoom a few days ago. They're very important. Every month we have to have one because there's always something that we need to be talking about. Training is something that never ends. After you do your basic training with us to get into the bus, training never ever stops. And so we just want to make sure that everybody understands that we are all, even trainers, we get trained constantly. It's an ongoing process. So with that being said, me and Krissy talked about what we wanted to talk about this month. And because we know that there's a lot of things going on, a lot of the holiday stress, and then that extra challenge that we call COVID going on, we wanted to try and keep it simple, but at the same time, something that's really, really important. So we thought we'd go back down to basics and make sure that everybody understands that before we leave on break, there's some basic things that we need to make sure that we remember, that we should be already doing. And if we're not doing, make sure that we do, and that we do it going forward. So go ahead and click the. So with that being said, we're going to talk about pre-trip, communication, and on the road. Go ahead and click it.
You sweet.
And if anybody, you all get a link to this PowerPoint that I'm showing, as well as a couple of other files that'll go with your replay. So for those of you that are seeing it live, that's awesome. Don't forget to put your name and stuff in the chat, and that your camera's on so that we can see that you're actually there.
The lunch.
For those that are on the replay, make sure that you put your information on the comments. Make sure you put your name and your Chronos number on the comments so that you can get full credit for watching this Zoom. Okay, so Krissy, before we get started, we're going to start with a safe trip. Before we get started, though, I didn't even let you welcome yourself.
I'm here. All right. This is Crystal's baby.
Yeah, I get to do most of it, but I'm not going to do it alone. I'll have the senior trainer that's going to be helping me, and we're going to have somebody else that's going to be helping me. So like I said, I was going to try and make this fun. I know I'm crazy and y'all have to just put up with me. So the dispatch office is really, really important. And I know that sometimes y'all get upset because it's also our training office. But remember, here at Southwest ISD, everything always does more than just one thing. We try to multitask our things and work as efficiently as possible. So if you ever have a question or concern that is training related or dispatch related and you can't get into with us, you're always welcome to email, call us, or don't forget that box that you can always put your notes in right there. Starting from the beginning, one of the things that we've noticed in training and dispatch is that a lot of people are just running in here and not in the correct frame of mind. When you walk in that door, I know it's easy to say and sometimes harder to do. You need to make sure that you leave your problems at home, and we can't do anything while
Strawberries.
we're on the bus anyway, and focus on
Smells
where
or
you're at.
smell good.
What I've seen, at least, I don't know if it's happened to anybody else, but they come to the keyboard and they grab their keys and they start walking and not realize that their bus is maybe being maintenance or something's going on with it. The shop is doing as much as they can to get our buses running all the time. So as soon as you see your keys, make sure that you look at that keychain. That's no longer a dispatch thing, that's a driver thing, that we're asking you for the responsibility to make sure that you know what bus you're driving. If you have a question as to where exactly the bus is, we have that information. So don't hesitate to ask dispatch, hey, this is the bus I'm going to be on, but I'm not really sure where it's at. Remember, they're all in numeric order, but that doesn't mean that you know exactly what lane it's in. Or if you have a question, why is my bus not there? We'll be happy to answer it if we can. So with that being said, on that first slide, we're going to talk about safe starts. And safe starts, of course, begins from the very beginning, which is your key. But the main part is how you actually start the bus. And you should be able to drive any bus. We're all professionals. So whether that be a diesel bus or a propane bus, you should be able to drive anything, right? So let's go to where the buses actually get their start. I thought that the best person that could talk to us about safe start was the guys who end up having to deal with the issues of not starting it safe, which is shop. So I got exclusive permission. I got exclusive permission to be here in the shop so that Rick could talk to us. I know a lot of y'all already know how to start your bus, but like I said, some of us have maybe forgotten how to do it correctly. So here, without any further ado, we got shop right here, and Rick is going to help us with this. All right, hold on, Rick, let me get you on. All right, Rick. What can you tell us about? So our question was starting the bus safe. That's the very first thing, because it's part of our pre-trip, and I think some of us maybe don't understand what a safe start is, or maybe we don't remember what a safe start is. Could you kind of walk us through as to what exactly should we be doing when we're starting a bus? And some of us drive diesel and some of us drive propane. So this bus is Lucky Luciano bus 197. Is this a propane bus or a diesel bus?
This is definitely a diesel bus. So
Okay.
it's like just like Krissy said, we have two different types of buses. We have diesels and we have propane. If we're talking about a diesel bus, you're gonna want to look for your wait to start message on your dashboard, and once you see that message, you turn the key to the on position. It's very, 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 very important that you wait until the message allows you to start your engine. If you're not doing that, you're starting up your engine way ahead of time, and you really could cause some damage to it in the long run. It's probably still going to start. It's probably still going to go down the road, but it's not a good idea. It's a good practice to do the wait to start. It's a message that's on all of your Thomas buses and all of your diesel buses, and it's going to say wait to start or glow plugs. But most of them nowadays are saying wait to start. So if you follow these simple instructions, just 30 to 40 seconds, maybe. I don't even think it's quite 1 minute, depending on exactly how cold it is. But most of them is going to be 30 to 40 seconds. If you want to give it the full minute, great. You've warmed up that intake enough to where you can start the engine successfully and you'd be doing good. If you're on a propane bus, you don't have a glow plug type system on there, so you're doing quite the opposite. You're going to have a message, and it's also going to tell you when to start. But don't leave your key on for any prolonged period of time, because now you're doing just the opposite. On a propane bus, it's not required for you to leave the key on for any long period of time. But if you are a diesel, we are asking you to please follow these simple instructions. It's a wait to start light. that's about it.
Okay,
So-
cool. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me see what this looks like. Oh, come on. Remember, guys, this is live TV. So, Rick, if while they're waiting for me to get my camera working, what is it that there you go. Why is it that my bus takes so long to get warm up in the, like, I get on the bus and I turn it on. Sometimes the heater's not working right away. Why?
Well, especially diesel engines. Diesel engines are a little slow to warm up. They're not as quickly to warm up as a gasoline or a propane engine. They're gonna take an extra 5 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes before you get any significant amount of heat from there. But you can't expect a lot of heat coming out of an engine right away. Probably in the first 5 minutes. Don't expect very much heat at all. On a cold morning, give yourself enough time to let these engines warm up after you've actually started them. Start up the engine, do your pre-trip, and anything else that you can do to give it a little bit of time. But expecting it to warm up even within 10 to 15 minutes after a startup, you're probably not going to get very little or any heat at all. But they will warm up. They will. All diesel engines will warm up to 190 degrees, 180 degrees, but it's not going to be that quick. Any propane and gasoline engines, you're probably going to get a little bit quicker, but not a diesel engine.
That's good to know. Okay. Let me get this off. Let me get it. All right. We're inside bus 197. And Mr. Rick's gonna start it off for us.
Okay, all of your instrumentation, of course, you know where it's at. You're going to be looking for your wait to start light. Now, this bus has already been started up today, and the engine's quite warm. So the wait to start light is going to come on for briefly, just maybe for a few seconds, because there's no need for it to stay on. On a cold morning, on a cold afternoon, even your wait to start light will stay on until it's indicated for it to come on. But right now, you're probably only going to see it for just a few seconds, and it's going to be on the center to the top of the instrument cluster. And they're just that quickly it goes off. But on a cold morning, it's going to stay on there. It's going to stay on there until it's time for it to come off, or until you've done what you're supposed to do.
Cool. Okay, so another question that some of the drivers ask me is, and I know this doesn't really have to do with the start per se, but how come, or no, not how come. How do they get their radios to work? So when they're doing their pre-trip and they're warming up their bus, they understand how to use that radio. Some of the buses have this radio on it. How exactly can they use their intercom radio?
Okay, on that one, there's two. You're probably going to have two settings. One of them is in the back. It's going to be a microphone setting, and that's going to give you your volume. So then that's, if you, of course, you're seeing numbers from 0 to 10. So depending on how loud you want to come across on your radio, you will adjust that. And then the other thing you also adjust is your volume on your actual radio. So just by squeezing the mic trigger, you automatically go to your radio settings. So volume here and volume on your radio. That's basically about it. They work by themselves after that.
That's cool. That's cool. Is there anything else that you can tell us about why it's so important to start it right? Like, if I don't start it right, does that mess up the computer, or like, what else can it do?
Well, these buses are very sophisticated nowadays. The electronics and the computers, they know what's expected of the driver. Now, if the driver isn't doing it, the bus is still going to run, but it's not going to be happy going down the road. So What's going on after that? Yeah, you can also cause mechanical problems within inside of the engine because, well, your oil pressure isn't where it's supposed to be. The oil isn't as hot as it's supposed to be. Your fuel isn't being burned the way it's supposed to be. The bus is still going to run, but you're going to cause some problems that are going to come across to us in the shop later on. So you of course you're going to want to do what's expected of you. Give yourself enough time to warm up these buses in the morning. Get the oil pressure where it's supposed to be nice and warm, the fuel nice and warm, the engine's already at operating temperature. You're going to go down the road, you're going to see that the engines are going to run stronger, more efficiently. They're going to see less and less check engine lights and other warning lights. And not to mention on our side, we're going to see better fuel economy as far as all of that, because the buses are going to still run, but they're not going to be running efficiently. So we want you to try to do your part so that we can do our part inside the shop and hopefully burn less fuel.
Yeah, so just jumping on the bus and starting it up, no bueno.
Not a good idea.
Okay.
Not a good idea.
That's good to know. And so is that sometimes when you tell us, like, we have an issue on the road and you say, we'll pull over and reset it or restart it?
Exactly.
Is that why?
That's a lot of times that has a lot to do with it, because the computers and the electronic systems on these buses, like I said, they're very sophisticated. If you haven't done what was asked of you and was expected of you, you're still going down the road. Eventually the computer's going to say, hey, wait a minute. Let's start all over again. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if it's a mistake on your part or a mistake on the bus's part. So it's actually self-checking itself, and it's asking you to start all over again. So of course it can't physically say start over
I don't know.
again.
I think the buses talk to me, but okay.
Well, yeah, well, we probably don't want that.
Yeah.
But that's when we jump in there and we ask of you, please pull over and in a safe spot and restart the engine again. Give it a few seconds with a key off, restart it again, and let's start all over. And if the computer at that point in time sees that everything is great, it's gonna let you go down the road. If not, it's gonna self-check again, and it's gonna give you a message. And that's probably where we're gonna try to guide you the best we can, depending on the situation.
Cool, cool. Well, I'm pretty lucky because not everybody gets this much time with you. So let me ask you one more question that I
Absolutely.
personally always have. So when I get on my bus or my car, I never start my car or bus with the air conditioner or radio or anything on full blast. My grandfather was a mechanic and he always told me that that was wrong. I've heard from some drivers though that that's not a big deal because I've seen them turn it on and off with everything full blast. You as a mechanic and that you're taking care of our baby buses here, what is the correct way about that part?
Well, the same rules and the same theories apply to vehicles, cars, trucks, buses. And even in the old days, it wasn't a good idea to do it. But now, more so now, because if you're starting up, it takes a lot of energy to start an engine, to turn the key and expect the starting system to turn the engine over, especially on a vehicle that's got glow plugs and all these other heating systems like on these diesels. You want to give everything the right amount of time and the right opportunity to do what it's supposed to do. If you're turning the key and expecting that diesel engine to start while your glow plugs are still active and they're trying to do what they're supposed to do, and you've got air conditioners and radios and blower motors and all kinds of lights and stuff on, you're turning the engine over and you're taking so much voltage out of your batteries that now your engine is struggling to start to begin with. But now instead of running with the 12 volts that you're supposed to, you probably depleted that voltage down to maybe 9 volts, 10 volts, because all of it is going to starting your engine ahead of time. Now you add all of these accessories that are on. Now you've depleted this voltage way beyond what it's supposed to be. Your computers don't know how to act at this point in time. The computers were designed to work off of a 12-volt system. And if you're asking the computer to think logically and do what it's supposed to do and make all the decision making that it's supposed to do and all the functioning that it's supposed to do, not on a 12-volt, but rather in reality of maybe a 7 or 8 or 9 volts, wow, it's a miracle sometimes these buses even start, or any vehicle for that matter.
Yeah.
So you really, it's very, very important. You turn all your accessories off, allow your glow plugs to ignite, turn on, and then turn themselves back on, already preheated. When you turn that key on, all you're doing is spinning the starter and making the engine spin and start on 12 volts or greater. And now you've got a successful start.
Makes complete sense. So we're going to turn everything off before we turn off the bus, and we're going to make sure that everything's off before we turn on the bus.
Exactly.
Makes complete sense. And like I said, if you're doing it on the bus, you should do it on your car. Now, just between me and you, Rick, how much is this bus worth?
We're talking about well over
Roughly.
100,000. Well over $100,000 machines.
So that's a lot of responsibility that we each have to take care of each one. And how many buses do we have?
Over 120 vehicles.
That's a lot of vehicles. So
Yes.
every little bit helps to take care of our moving offices.
Exactly.
Okay, sounds good. I think that's it. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us that you think we need to know as drivers that are important right now?
Once again, folks, if you've got any questions, any concerns, bring them to my attention, bring them to Larry's attention in the evenings if I'm not here for some reason, but together we will work to answer any and all questions or concerns that you have.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you so much, Rick. I appreciate it. Like I said, it's hard to get time one-on-one with a mechanic. They always charge you 50 bucks an hour. I'm glad I got it for free here with us. Okay, cool. All right. So with that being said, we're going to continue our safety meeting. I hope that was informative for y'all. We're going to continue here. All right. So he talked about, he briefly discussed about inspection and the safe start and how important it is. I'm going to talk about, we're going to continue talking about this because I think it's important. Hope we answered a lot of questions that some people had. We're going to go out here. Krissy, was there anything you want to add while I'm rolling out to our bus? It's going to be our safety bus today.
The only thing that I can say is whenever you guys decide to start your bus, right before you start, always look at your gauges just to make sure that they're not stuck. And then once you turn the key on, then you'll see those needles moving.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about a little bit about inspection. And like he said, he mentioned it about making sure that we do the inspection properly and that we take the time that we need to. And especially while the motor's going, that's a perfect time for you to be doing other stuff. One thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have noticed too, is we do the inspection quickly. Some of us do it thoroughly, which is great. Nobody's here with me, so I'm gonna take this one. But you want to make sure that you check those key components and not just check off your checkoff list. One of the things that I've noticed is when I do a pre-inspection on the bus, those emergency windows are stuck, whether it be on a brand new bus or an older bus. Make sure that you open up those windows and those hatches. I know they're hard to close, but if we can't open them just on a pre-trip and there's not an emergency, what's going to happen when there is an emergency? So if you can't open and close them easily, remember how Rick said, go out there and go talk to them and say, hey, something's going on. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to come into it. This is bus 219, which shout out to 219. Tabitha, thank you for letting us, this bus didn't get to go on field trips. On Tuesday, the supervisors were really good about reminding us about making sure that we put the information for our students on the window, but not in an obstructive way. You will get the information on the actual law where it discusses that and how it's supposed to not be in the way of being able to see what's safe and what's clear. Now, if you have too much information on here or you can't see through it, remember, we can always cut it down. And in dispatch, we can always make one, if there's one specific that you need, we'll be happy to help you with that as well. But always make sure you have at least what you're on. All right, let's talk about. So one of the things I wanted to talk about that was important, that I think is important for safety, is from the very get-go, from where you're sitting. This bus is clean. Adjusting. When you get into your bus, you should be seated properly. I've noticed myself, and I know that some drivers have come to talk to us about certain things that are going on with them, that they're maybe straining, or that they got into a sub bus and that bus, the seat doesn't adjust properly for them. They can't reach the pedals. That is all a safety issue. Keep that in mind. If you cannot sit properly in the seat and be able to reach the pedals without straining, reach the buttons without straining, you're putting your body and the bus in danger. So how should you be sitting? You should be, and let me sit on the seat so you can see. But I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to sit. But like I said, I've seen some people, and I've heard some people that they're sitting in their seat and they're getting leg cramps, or their back hurts when they get off the bus and stuff like that. All that is from straining. Remember, we're on the bus driving for 3 hours. That's like leaving your house and going to the beach every day, back and forth. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable. You should be, let's see if you can see me. You should be sitting. There we go. Okay. Like this, for me, doesn't work. Now, I know that some drivers get upset because we move everything on their bus. Maybe the fueler came on, or somebody borrowed the bus for a midday or what have you, and they move their mirrors and they move their seat. Keep in mind, guys, that each and every time you get into any bus, any vehicle, it needs to be adjusted to that particular driver. By not doing that, you're not practicing a safe drive. And we all want to be safe drivers out there, right? So if you can't reach the pedals, that's not good. I'm sure. On some buses, they're a little fancier than others. You can move the pedals up. There's an actual button, and it says move pedal on the newer ones. For those of us who drive older buses that don't have that luxury, we have to adjust the seat properly. Now this one, the steering wheel is too high for me as well. On all buses, there is a way to adjust your seat, your wheels, your steering wheel. You want to make sure that you know how to change it on your bus. If you don't know, make sure that you call shop before you leave the yard. On this one, there's a button in the middle, and that'll bring it down. So now I can reach the pedals properly. Bring it up a little bit more. And you should be able to have your hands on 4 and 7, 4 and 10. When your arm should not be further than 2 inches from your rib cage. It should be, stop me if I'm wrong, Krissy. Well, if I'm wrong, okay. So you should be like this, not this far out or not this far in. All that is straining. If you're sitting in the proper position, everything should be easy to reach. Your parking brake, your gear shift, and all your ambers and everything that you need to get a hold of. If you're too far back, you're going to be pulling out, or if you're too far in, you're not going to be able to easily move the steering wheel as the way you should. So I know you think that's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. Like I said, you get down off your bus after 3 hours of driving and you're not in a proper seat, it's going to be, and I've had some drivers that have also come to us and told us, you know what, I will not ride that particular bus because the seat moves too much, or it doesn't stay where I need it to stay. Remember, make sure that you tell us that. We don't know if you don't tell us, and we don't want you to drive unsafe. When you're in the proper sitting position, that's when, of course, you're going to adjust your mirrors. Again, you should be able to see out of the back at least 200 feet. if those windows aren't clean back there, or your mirrors are not adjusted properly, you're not going to be able to see that distance that you need to be able to see. Your crossover mirrors are not to check out your amber lights, your loading lights. They're actually to see, you know, for things underneath. So we do see a lot of buses that their crossover mirrors are not properly adjusted. If you need help with that, please call shop. They will be more than happy to help you with that, to adjust them properly. Your mirrors should be, and there will be an attachment on exactly where your mirror should be. I think that's on the next one, in the seat adjustment. Chris, you want to click on the side? There we go. So that's kind of to give you an idea of where the mirrors are supposed to be. Like I said, I'll give you all, I'm going to send you all the file for those of you that don't have the information or they have a question about it. That way, nobody says they didn't know what we were talking about. Okay, let's see. On the next one, go ahead and switch the slide. There you go. On the next one, it talks about what I just talked about, which is the seating position. Just reiterating, making sure that you're properly using it, using the seating properly, and that you're moving everything, and that your seatbelt is also attaches easily and on and off. For those of you who don't know, every bus should have a seatbelt cutter. If for whatever reason your bus doesn't have it, and that is part of your bus inspection, make sure you tell somebody, because if something happens that you don't have that bus cutter, you're responsible. It is part of your documentation. Don't just check it off, know where exactly it's at. Especially my drivers that have the newer buses or on special needs buses, aids, make sure that you know where those seatbelt cutters are. If your driver, if you and your aide have not had a conversation about that, but this is now the time to make sure that you know what your emergency plans are and where your equipment is. Okay, so go ahead and click on the next one. Okay. So we're going to talk about communication. Get down a little bit. Oops. The radio. Rick talked briefly about how to use that intercom radio. Unfortunately, not all of us have that luxury, that we have the whole buses that have that extra radio that we can yell at the kids in the back about. But know that there's a proper way to use a radio, and we haven't really had a problem that I've noticed, but keeping the information short, sweet, and to the point is super important. If it is something that needs to be elaborated, that's why sometimes dispatch will call you and tell you, can you please pull over and call us from your phone, so that we can there's information that doesn't need to be told over the radio that we need to tell you specifically. And it goes both ways. If for whatever reason the driver or an aide is on the bus that you need to contact us without using the radio, remember that the radio is for that. Being polite and courteous goes a long way, both on the radio and on the road. It's been brought to our attention that some people tend to want to get ahead of the game, or they're not leaving the bus appropriately in terms of clean. Remember, we're all professional, and it's important that we give each other personal and professional best practices. And so just making sure that you don't go too fast. There's speed limits. Everybody should know, how fast is the bus supposed to go? No faster than 50 miles an hour. Do some of us go a little bit faster by accident because maybe we're on 410 and the the rest of the traffic is going faster and we forget, yes, immediately slow down and get to 50 miles an hour. There is no need for anybody to rush from point A to point B. It's all about being safe. The GPS and the Synovia fleet tracking, that's not so that we can catch everybody doing something wrong. That's so that we can make sure that everybody is safe. So when we ask you, or when we say, you know, how's the speed or whatever, it's because we want to make sure that you're safe. Don't ever go too fast, and along that same lines, don't go too slow. We have had calls from the public and stuff that say, hey, this bus is in my neighbor, or, you know, I got behind this bus, the speed limit is 45 miles and the bus was going 20, 30 miles. It's hard for us to legitimize you going 30 miles an hour on a 45-mile zone unless you have a load students to pick up or drop off. That's not safe either, to be going too slow. So keep mindful of the speed limits and watch your distance, whether that be on the road. I've been driving a lot and so has Krissy. And so unfortunately we have seen where some buses are getting way, way too close to the car that's in front of them. There's nothing we can do about the vehicle behind us if it's not a bus, but you can do something about what's in front of you. You want to make sure you don't give yourself too much space between the two vehicles. But what we're seeing more is that vehicles are not giving themselves enough space. Make sure you give yourself enough space from that other vehicle so that in the event that something happens, you're not, if that vehicle rolls back or you're rolling forward, there's not going to be an issue. Signaling your intentions. I don't see a lot of that happening, but every now and then where people are not merging properly or they're not putting on their turn signals at the proper time, or that they're putting on their signals too soon. There is a too soon and a too late. So be mindful of that, that there's a proper time and place of when you're supposed to use your turn signals, your hazards, your loading lights, all those different signals. Krissy, so far, is there anything that you would like to add up until now?
No, but just make sure that your mirrors are adjusted properly. Like I said, the more buses I get into, I can see that they're not. And I tried to fix it for them, but when you go back again, they're messed up again. But that's your lifeline, guys, and it could be the lifeline of somebody else. So please use your mirrors correctly.
Absolutely. And we're going to work at we do have a mirror adjustment space that has the dots. We're going to see if we can't work at getting that one repainted, because that is also a great way to adjust your mirrors. Correct, Krissy?
Yes, that's called the field of vision.
Exactly. So hopefully while we're on the break, we can get that field of vision painted again so that we can utilize that, so that you can use that to adjust your mirrors. And we'll discuss that for those of you who have never used it. Once we get it fixed again, we'll show you how to use that again. Right of way. Right of way is a big deal. We talked about it briefly in a couple of Zoom meetings, but I want to make sure I make it clear. You are the big bus, you're the big yellow bus, and you don't have control over anybody else. You only have control over your bus, correct? So keep that in mind when you're going into an intersection or into a school area that you're going in or out into the entrance of the school. We've talked about waving, where people wave each other down and stuff like that, how not safe that is. But at the same time, you have to give each other the right of way. Like I said, we can't control the cars when they start to get into other places. Be very mindful of of everything that's going around your buses, and you should be able to see further down. You know, like if you're approaching a school and you see a bus coming out, be mindful of that. You can adjust your speed and slow down and give them the right of way if they are to have the right of way. I've gone many times where I go into McNair and it's really hard for me to get into McNair because this bus is coming out. Of course,
Okay, Crystal, you just froze, Ma.
Lied to you.
You keep freezing.
Am I still freezing?
No,
You're
you're
fine.
back.
Okay, you're
I'm
back.
back. Thanks, 196. Okay. Am I still freezing or am I good?
No, you're
No,
good.
you're good, Crystal.
Okay, cool. All right. So when you're coming out of the school, remember we're all buses. So we can't control anybody else, but we can control each other. When you're coming out of the school or you're going into the school, be mindful of who's coming in and who's coming out. If you've already unloaded your kids, maybe take a little bit of time to come out so that you can let those of us who still have kids and we're trying to get in a chance to get in there. Because it's very hard for us, although I have seen some great drivers out there that can actually make the turn. Give yourself that space so that we can turn the bus in to deliver our kids. And the same thing goes the other way. If you know that that bus is already loaded and you're empty, let those guys come out so that they can get those kids on their way. Krissy, is there anything you want to, or any of the supervisors or directors, is there anything you want to add about the entrances and intersections?
Just at the intersections, guys, I just want you to make sure that you look left, right, then left again. Stop at your stop sign. And if anytime I'm stopped at a four-way stop, I always let everybody else go. I don't want to be the one that takes off first and then have to fight over it. So just be courteous and let others go ahead of you. Always be the one that's the courteous driver.
Yeah. Politeness will go a long way.
I have something, Crystal, entering
ma'am.
the campuses. I know we've had some issues in the recent past on individual campuses when you come in to load up in the afternoon when other buses are there. Drivers, let's remember, we are not to pass other buses up that are parked there. And of course, the buses that are parked there, please be alert and aware of that. When you're the first one there, pull up all the way up to the front, pull away all the way up to the end of the awning, whatever campus you're at. And you will know which campus that you're at, where is all the way up to the front. Just remember, be courteous. You see somebody, especially a new driver, you see a new driver coming in and he's doing something that maybe he doesn't know or nobody said anything to him, because we may forget to say things to them or remind them about different routes or whatever the case is. Be courteous, be a team player, and go up to the person and say, hey, you know what, this is how we normally do it here, but we don't pass, but if you want to, go ahead and go around and we're parked here, so you just come in and park at the end, and that's it. Help each other out there. Y'all are there for each other, so be courteous. Again, if there's something that you don't want to address with the driver, come to one of the supervisors, one of the trainers, the directors, and we will definitely correct whatever needs to be corrected.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Gracie. That is super important because we do see a lot of that. And those are all accidents that can be prevented and issues that can be prevented by sharing that information with each other. And like I said, we all sometimes have to be reminded, but never, ever, ever passing a bus. And as far as I know, there's no real lineup except in the very beginning of the afternoon. Other than that, which is just for the middle schools. After that, it's first come, first serve. So if, let's say today I'm on bus 192 and we get to Elm Creek before bus 143, we're gonna go all the way to the end and make sure that we're there. Maybe tomorrow we won't be the first one there. That's just the way it is. Those buses that don't get there, they'll just stay in line. Everybody will get loaded. It's just gonna take a little bit of time. It's just a team effort. Okay, anything else on that part before I continue?
Sounds good.
Okay, so briefly, I'm gonna talk about documentation. Why is it so important? Special needs has a little bit more documentation than regular, but we all have paperwork. It's important. It's not just busy work that we give you all because we want to know. It's something that by law we have to have for each and every one of you. So if we bug you about why don't we have your mileage? Why don't we have your right and lefts? You know, why don't we have your student counts or your seating charts, especially? All those are super duper important. And like we talked about in the Zoom, it's really important to get those in on time, not just because it's the law, but because it'll help us with and the tracing part, but also when you're out, we use that information for the person who's going to take the bus, the sub driver or whoever's going to drive that bus. Anybody should be able to get on your bus and be able to do the route. So we should have all that information, where the kids sit, how they sit, and where exactly it is that you go. Requests. So sometimes there's unforeseen circumstances. Sometimes you're out. I wish I could videotape sometime what goes on in the dispatch because it's crazy. It's the heart of transportation. And I know sometimes you may feel like we're not paying attention to you because you're calling over to base and we're not answering quick enough. Trust and believe that whoever is there in dispatch is doing their best, whether it be training in dispatch or a supervisor or a director. We're all trying to get the information out to you as quickly as possible, and also to answer
We move it forward.
answer the
Do we
radio
move
as
it
quickly.
forward?
Go ahead. Someone was
Okay, sorry.
unmuted.
Answer as quickly as possible. So with that being said, sometimes there's requests, sometimes there's things that we don't know. It happens all of a sudden, and we ask you, can you pick up a student or whatever, transport something? I've heard some drivers that get upset about it. We're all professional. Again, I know this has already been said over and over again, but I just want you all to understand that when we ask you to do something, or whenever we're asked to do something, we're asked to do something because like Miss Gracie said earlier, we're all in this together. This is a team effort. And the goal is to get those students transported from point A to point B in a safe and timely manner. So sometimes it happens that because we ask one driver to cover other things, they're not able to fulfill their particular route. Keep that in mind. And if it's a route or an area that you've never been in, I know the feeling. I've been in a lot of areas that I've never been in and I don't feel comfortable with. But again, I have to remind myself, I'm a professional driver. One way or another, I'm going to get through this. If you have the kids on the bus, you can always ask them, hey, where do y'all live? Right? If you don't have the kids in the bus like it's in the morning and you're actually having to pick them up, it's a little more challenging. But that's where dispatch comes in, and we're going to do our best to try and get you to through that new area. Don't be afraid to take on a new area. Okay. I know it's already 12. We did start a little bit late, so bear with me. I'm going to try to go through this rest of the stuff quickly, but I don't want to go too quickly because there's a couple of things I do want to talk about. Securing the bus is the first thing. That's the first thing you do when you're unloading and the last thing you do when you're taking off. We have seen drivers that unfortunately are not pulling that brake. Please, guys, it's super duper important. I know you're thinking that you're trying to get out quickly. There's no sense in getting out quickly. At a railroad track, you know when you're supposed to be pulling that brake. If you don't know, that's why we're talking about it today. That brake has got to be pulled when you're unloading. Don't not pull that brake because you're trying to get those kids out quickly. If you don't know what time the school starts, I put it on here just in case because I do see a lot of drivers that are sitting and waiting at the school for a long time. I know that some of y'all don't have a lot of kids. Some of you only have a few kids, and that's why you get to the different schools earlier. But the schools do start and stop at a certain time. So if you're rushing through your route because you're thinking that you need to get to a certain place faster, keep in mind what time they actually start. And that at some schools, they're not actually there to receive the kids until a certain time. And like we all know, we can't just let them go like we used to. Administration has to be there. Bus behavior. With bus behavior, I'm going to tie in the whole idea of cleaning, because it all kind of talks about the whole challenge of COVID that we're having right now. I know it's important for you to keep your kids to keep their mask on, especially for some of y'all who are on a bus that is full. Communicating with your students is super important. And all students on all buses should by this time be familiar with what's expected of them in terms of using the hand sanitizer, whether that be the one on attached to the bus or the one that you use. I know for some drivers, they have so many kids when they load. I have heard that instead of allowing them to use the one that's there, to not bunch them up because we want to keep them safely spaced, they'll use their personal pump to get the kids that way, or they utilize two. That's great. I applaud those drivers that are doing their best to try and keep the kids clean and sanitized, talking to them. We shouldn't be having problems on the bus. Cleaning the bus, I'm gonna go through that real briefly because I know that there's a question about how much clean is clean. We should all be cleaning the bus. There should be no reason for anyone to say that there's not enough time to clean the bus. There are several ways of cleaning the bus. And I've talked to all the leadership, all the people that are support to make sure that everybody understands. The blue liquid, if you have a bus full of students, the blue liquid is of course what you're going to use on the on your high trafficked areas. And there's two ways of using it. You can spray it and let it dry. Now, of course, you're not going to drench it, but a light mist and let it air dry, especially for those of us who don't have AC and heaters on. For others, they don't have a lot of kids, so they do. The other method is the wipe down method. The wipe down method is definitely what you want to do at the end of the day, that every single seat get cleaned and wiped down. The high traffic areas are the most important areas, which are your handrails and the tops of the seat, because that's where the kids are touching the most. That's where you want to make sure that you focus on. Those buckets that we gave you of the white cleanser, the white little wipies, those are really great to use on a real quick one. For those of us that have a lot of kids, spray down your bus when you go back to go check. Do a little light dusting if you need to, because there was too much liquid and it's not going to dry out too quickly. And then make sure you focus on those handrails and the area that are high maintenance, high touching. I'm forgetting something. I know. Making sure that your trash is thrown out every single day, because you don't want that dirt that you've been cleaning off to be left there. For those of us who don't have a lot of kids on the bus, your seating chart should reflect that. Don't let your kids sit all the way in the back just because they can. Keep them up here in the front, and guess what? That's going to minimize you having to walk all the way to the back and figure out what seats you got to sit clean. I have noticed on some buses that they let their kids, that's how their seating chart is. They let their kids sit kind of in the back, but then we notice on the videos and stuff that we have to pull that the kids move the seats. Make sure that your kids are sitting in their seat and assign them as up in front so that you can have some control over what exactly you need to clean. And that'll keep you rolling faster. Krissy, is there anything else you want to discuss before I kind of wrap it up, or directors, supervisors?
What I have is, if you have seats that get damaged, please report it right away, because they will gut those seats and throw foam all over the place. I've come across that. Please, as soon as they rip a seat, please let the shop know about it. We can give you tape, like Sonia says. We can do whatever we can to try and prevent it and keep them away from that seat.
Thanks. I knew I forgot something. That is super important in your pre-inspection. If you have any kind of damage, looseness, that's all part of your pre-trip. That's why I was telling you in the very beginning, don't just check it off. actually do it. Check those seats, make sure that they're not loose, make sure that there's not any graffiti on it. Unfortunately, some of our buses go on field trips and maybe there wasn't anything on your bus when you gave it out, but when you got it back, all of a sudden it hasn't. We're not gonna know where exactly it happens if you're not actually doing your pre-trip and noting that and making sure that you tell somebody so that we can take care of that. So wrapping it up, last slide. Just click on it. There you go. Okay, so just want to wrap it all up. Okay, so always proceed with care. Stop to make sure you check your keys, make sure you have all the things you need to, that your mind is in the right place. I know right now with holidays, everybody's all crazy, thinking all kinds of things. When are we gonna get off on break? What's going on? Stay in the moment, stay just for those few hours that you're on the bus. You need to keep your mind here. We don't want any accidents or incidents happening right now, especially right now, right before we're gonna get on holiday. And don't forget, of course, to adjust your seat. We want you to be comfortable. We want you to be safe and secure. And with that being said, it is 12:10. Tamayo de la Cruz, Sonia, Gracie, Krissy, anybody, anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Yes, Crystal, the only thing I want to remind the drivers to please, we always emphasize on this is the speed limit on our transportation parking lot. Okay, drivers, please remind it's 10 miles an hour on the transportation parking lot when you're coming in here. So I want to remind you on that. I know we always have to address that, but keep in mind, I know we get complacent when we come in after school and we're just, nobody's there, or it seems that the bus is just cruising pretty good, but keep an eye on that speedometer when you're coming in and we're driving 10 miles an hour in the parking lot, especially when people are going in and out of their buses and coming to the building.
So is there anybody that has permission to go over 10 miles an hour in the bus yard?
Not that I'm know of.
No.
No.
I wanted to also add, Crystal, when you enter the parking lot or exit the parking lot, make sure that you follow those arrows as you're coming in and going out. Also, there is no crossing over from lane to lane. You go, or from parking spot to parking spot. You go up and down those arrows. That's how we travel here in transportation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Let's not get lazy. I know it's happened to all of us. It's real easy to just want to cross over, especially when we're coming back and we want to get off that bus really, really fast. Don't do it. Stay in the practice of doing it correctly. And once you do it a couple of times, it becomes a regular habit. Anything else? Great. Okay, so it's 12:10, and with that being said, we're going to go ahead and stop it. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments about today, please, by all means, you're welcome to email, text, or leave it in one of our boxes. We'll be happy to take care of it. So see you all in the afternoon. That's going to be the last safety meeting for 2020. The next safety meeting will be in January, and we'll announce it later. Bye, guys.
Good job, Crystal.
Thanks. Let's have lunch.